if members of the public please be upstanding for Her Worship Mayor Karen Vernon.
Good evening, everyone. It's now 6:30 and I'll declare this ordinary meeting of the Town of Victoria Park Council is open. I'd like to invite Councillor Cruiser to read the Acknowledgement of Country.
Nang Jerapan Wajak Nunga Boja Yakin, Nija Bilya Baduk. I'm honoured to be standing on Wajak Nunga country on the banks of the Swan River. Nang Kadich Nunga Murt, Ken Kadak Nija Wajak Nunga Boja. Nang Kadich Nija Nunga Birdia Kura Yay Buddha Balapin Mudich Nunga Kadichin Mut Wer Boja Yay. I acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land and respect past, present and emerging leaders, their continuing cultural heritage, beliefs and relationships with the land, which continues to be important today. Nang Yunga Balapin Nunga Birdia Wermut Nija Boja. I thank them for the contribution made to the life in the town of Victoria Park and to this region.
Thank you. Please be seated. Good evening, everyone. Item 2 in the agenda is announcements from the presiding member. 2.1 is recording and live streaming of proceedings. In accordance with Regulation 14I of the Local Government Administration Regulations 1996, this meeting is being audio and video recorded and live streamed on the town's website. Under Clause 39(1) of the Meeting Procedures Local Law 2019, I do not give permission for any other person to record the proceedings of this meeting. By being present at this meeting, members of the public consent to the possibility that their image and voice may be live streamed to the public. Recordings are also made available on the town's website following the meeting. 2.2 is public question time and public statement time. There are guidelines that need to be adhered to in our council meetings, and during question and statement time, people speaking are not to personalise any questions or statements about elected members, town staff, or use any possible defamatory remarks. In accordance with Clause 40 of the Meeting Procedures Local Law, a person addressing the council shall extend due courtesy and respect to the council and the processes under which it operates, and shall comply with any direction by the presiding member. A person present at or observing a meeting shall not create a disturbance at a meeting by interrupting or interfering with the proceedings, whether by expressing approval or dissent, by conversing or by any other means. When the presiding member speaks during public question time or public statement time, any person then speaking is to immediately stop, and every person present is to preserve strict silence so that the presiding member may be heard without interruption. As per our normal practice, there's a limit of 3 questions per person, 2 minutes allocated to a statement per person. If, however, there are a few members in the public gallery, we can be more generous with those. In accordance with Clause 56 of the Meeting Procedures Local Law, both elected members and the public, when speaking, are not to reflect adversely on the character or actions of elected members or employees. We go through to 2.5, which is the Mayor's report from August through to September 2025. So actually have a number of announcements to make, so this might take a little bit of time. Firstly, on behalf of our council, I'm very pleased to officially welcome Alison Labicus, the town's new Chief Operations Officer, to her first ordinary council meeting. So although she's been on the job for almost 4 weeks and has been to a couple of special council meetings, this is our first ordinary council meeting. Alison has a senior leadership career spanning the private mining resources sector, state and local government, and joins us from the City of Armidale. We look forward to both working with and learning from you, Alison, so welcome. Now, following my announcement last month about town employee Helen Harris being awarded Best Swim Teacher in WA at the WA Aquatic Recreation Industry Awards on the 8th of August, there is further exciting local and national recognition for our Aqualife Swim School to report. Congratulations on the following Australian Swim School Association Awards, which were won in mid-August. We won not only WA Inclusive Swim School of the Year, but we won the National Award for Inclusive Swim School of the Year, which I think is absolutely fantastic. We got Swim School of the Year WA overall, highly commended. Helen Harris was awarded WA Swim School Teacher of the Year and went on to be a national finalist. And Kim McMinn was a national finalist for the Swim Australia Leadership in Aquatics. So those results are absolutely outstanding, and well done to the entire team. And we'd ask if Mr. CFO and Mr. CEO could convey Council's congratulations to all the members of the Aqualife swim school team. That's fantastic. Now, we also have two town staff who were recognised for their contributions to local government at the LG Professionals Annual Awards on the 10th of September. Congratulations to Paul Gravett, our current Manager of Place Planning, who's also our Manager of Community Development, on receiving the Meritorious Award recognising his long service and leadership in the community development sector within WA and nationally over more than 25 years. Paul is a past chair of the LG Professionals Community Development Network, a local government mentor, and has contributed to building stronger, more resilient communities through his work on evaluation frameworks, disaster recovery relief, and supporting community action plans across Australia through his work with think tank, the Bank of Ideas. And congratulations to our young star, Lara Burford, our Safer Neighbourhoods Community Development Officer, who received the Young Leader Award for her strong and consistent leadership and commitment to safety, collaboration and inclusion. Lara has spearheaded initiatives at the town such as the Emergency Relief Network, co-created the Support Services Directory with neighbouring councils and championed compassionate approaches to homelessness. We are thrilled to see all of these town employees recognised by their local government peers and industry colleagues, both within WA and nationally, for their expertise, dedication and hard work. And we are very proud of their achievements. And if I could ask Mr. Chief Community Planner and Mr. CEO to convey our congratulations to both Paul and Lara, that would be muchly appreciated. Finally, on a much sadder note, on the 18th of August, Rod McGee of McGee's News Agency in East Victoria Park passed away after a long illness, aged 83. Rod McGee was born in 1942. His grandfather had opened the original McGee's News Agency in 1933 in Mount Lawley. Rod's father bought land on Albany Highway in East Victoria Park and relocated the news agency there in 1946, just before the causeway was built. Rod then grew up in East Victoria Park and attended Kent Street Senior High School. Rod took over and ran the news agency for 60 years, from 1957 to 2017, when he retired at the age of 75 and closed the business. 5 generations of the McGee family worked in the news agency over its 84-year history. McGee's News Agency is an iconic part of Albany Highway's retail history. Rod was a well-known and liked businessman and community member. Most long-time locals have fond memories of McGee's as a treasure trove where you could find just about any stationery, office item or school resource material. Although I didn't grow up in Victoria Park, as a child my mum used to drive me to McGee's just about every month to get materials for my school projects. It's where I bought my first Parker pen. I always used to think that if you stayed and rummaged about in the shop long enough, you would probably find some of the first items of stock that McGee's ever purchased, because I don't think they ever got rid of anything that didn't sell. On his retirement in 2017, Rod reckoned he had sold and delivered over 1 million copies of the West Australian newspaper during his career. But the news agency never sold lotto tickets when they were introduced, because Rod's father was a Methodist who did not approve of gambling. On behalf of Council, we extend our sincere condolences to Rod's family and friends on their sad loss. He will always have a special place in our town's history. Now moving on to the remainder of the Mayor's report of my activities since our last Council meeting. On the 20th of August, I attended my first Burswood Park Board meeting. On the 21st of August, the CEO and I attended a meeting of the South East Corridor Councils Alliance hosted by the City of Armidale. We signed the new second Memorandum of Understanding, which was approved by our Council in August, and we received an update on our Renewable Energy Corridor project, including the Virtual Power Plant Initiative for local businesses. That evening, I attended a Mindarie Regional Council CEO briefing on issues including odour management, the waste-to-energy and FOGO tenders. On 25 August, the CEO and I met with Paula Rogers, the CEO of the Committee for Perth, to discuss how we can work together on promoting the town of Victoria Park as an inner-city destination. That evening, the CEO and I presented a candidates information session for those interested in running for council at the coming elections. On the 27th of August, the CEO and I hosted a morning tea for town staff to celebrate our 2025 National Local Government Award for Environmental Sustainability for our birdwaterers. That afternoon, I attended the official opening of the $16 million refurbishment of Swan Care's Waminda Aged Care Residential Facility, followed by an afternoon tea with the Swan Care Board and Waminda residents. On 29 August, I attended the Curtin Innovation Awards, Curtin University's annual awards recognising the bold innovative projects capable of commercialisation by the university's student staff and graduates. On 3rd of September, I had the opportunity to attend a media promotion with Channel 10 and a site inspection of the Elizabeth Bailey House redevelopment by Black Oak to promote the appointment of the new hospitality management company. The works are progressing at an impressive speed with a view to a soft opening before Christmas. On 7 September, I presented the football to the umpires, then attended the Indigenous round of the AFLW for the West Coast Eagles versus Port Adelaide match at Lathlane Park. On 8 September, I attended a Business News Leadership Matters business breakfast to hear Premier Roger Cook announce a proposal to cut red tape and fast-track the planning process for designated significant state development projects by vesting the sole power to designate and approve significant state developments in the Premier himself. Later that morning, the Chief Community Planner and I attended a presentation by the town's Urban Forest team on the outcomes of this year's community planting program, followed by morning tea with the team. On 10 September, the CEO and I attended a meeting of the Perth Inner City Group hosted by the City of Subiaco. A key focus of that meeting was a presentation on the progress of the Safer Speeds on Local Roads Go 40 project, led by our own Chief Community Planner, which has now been submitted to the WA Road Safety Commission for approval. So that's an exciting bit of progress for that. I also attended the first day of the Walga Waste and Resource Recovery Conference. On 11 September, I had an early morning meeting of the Burswood Park Board, followed by attending the second day of the Waste and Resource Recovery Conference. On 13 September, I held Share with the Mayor at the library, and on 14 September, I joined the Victoria Park Carlisle Bowling Club for their season open day, which was unfortunately rained out, so I couldn't put my usual great bowling skills on show, but it did make for a great opportunity to play some pool and some darts instead. Item number 3 in the agenda is attendance. We have 2 elected members who are late. Apologies for tonight's meeting, Councillor Melrosa and Councillor Miles. Otherwise, we have all other elected members in attendance. There are a number of staff in attendance at the meeting, led by the CEO, Mr Askew. There are no elected members on approved leave of absence. Item 4, declarations of interest. Mr CEO, do we have any declarations of interest, please?
Thank you, Mayor Vernon. No, I've received none.
Thank you. Are there any elected members who have an interest to declare who haven't already done so? No? Well, just a reminder, if you think that you do have one, we'll need to get that dealt with before the item comes up. So item 5 is public question time, which I'll now open at 6:43 p.m. I note that we have one person listed on my list to ask questions. So Vince Maxwell, please come forward, state your name and suburb for the record.
Good evening, Mayor and Councillors. I'm Vince Maxwell from Vic Park. On the 15th of August, I wrote to you, Mayor, regarding a discrepancy between the budget figures published on the town's website and the figures approved by Council at the special Council meeting on the 8th of July. You acknowledged this issue in your reply, noting that rough enough is not good enough. While the minutes presented tonight for that council meeting have been corrected to reflect the wording of the motion that was voted on, the inconsistency between the published budget figures and the figures approved by council still remains. Can you explain why the administration has altered the numbers that council voted on?
All right, I'm going to refer that question to the Chief Financial Officer, Mr Old, because I think a detailed explanation has been provided. Mr Old.
Thank you, Mayor. So the published document will be corrected once we're just getting through doing the annual financial report, just a workload issue. We have consulted with the department about how the magnitude of this error, and it's noted that we can correct it in due course. It was just once we processed the amended rates as detailed on the night, there was just a rounding error through the document because the document behind the scenes goes to the cent, whereas when we publish it, we just round it off to the dollar. So the $2 represents, not a lot of difference in rates, but we'll correct that when we've got some time and the annual report is done.
Your next question, Mr Maxwell.
So at last month's ordinary council meeting, I raised concerns about the minor review of the corporate business plan, specifically why key information such as the financials and major projects had been removed. And you, Mayor, also asked the CFO similar questions at that meeting. In tonight's agenda, one of my questions about major projects is addressed with the statement that page 10 of the corporate business plan has the major projects listed as per last year. However, page 10 of the plan is headed major projects, but in fact contains only the town's advocacy priorities. Rough sleeping and homelessness is hardly a project. Perth Entertainment and Sporting Precinct motor racing circuit opposition. I mean, is that a project? So last year there were 2 pages of projects with projected costs for future years out to 2028, but that information has disappeared. So once again I ask, where in this plan is the information on major projects?
All right, so I just need to find out which town staff member prepared the answers to go in tonight's agenda. I think I'm going to refer that to the Manager of Governance and Strategy, Ms Tucker.
Thank you, and thank you for the question. Can you elaborate on which major projects you're actually referring to, and I might be able to answer in a bit more detail.
Well, there aren't any major projects in the corporate business plan, which is what I was saying. Last year's, there's 2 pages of them, and they've got costings for the entirety of the plan out to 2028. This plan, the one I said I can't see any major projects in, it's got a page that says major projects, but it's only got the listing of the town's advocacy strategies. Priorities, if you like, yes. There's 6 on them. I know they've changed since then because there's been meetings about them, but that's all that's on there, and they're not major projects. So where's all the finance stuff? This is what I asked at the last meeting, and it just got ignored.
Ms Tucker?
Thank you. The questions didn't get ignored. With the corporate business plan, you'll see that in there's things that we're going to achieve for this financial year, and there's costings against those projects that have been included in that business plan. The business plan has been amended to reflect those projects that are no longer going ahead or that have been completed and have been removed from the business plan for this financial year. But the costings are still there against each of those projects in that plan.
Can you tell me what pages they're on?
I don't have it in front of me.
Well, neither do I, because it's not there.
I can provide further information and take the question on notice.
So, Mr Maxwell, you've clearly looked at pages. It's coming up for me. I'm just double checking if this is how it might not read exactly the same to members of the public. Oh, it does. So page 13, or page, actually before page 13. So that would be, doesn't have a page number on it, but from page 12 onwards, there's a listing of all the community priorities in accordance with the Strategic Community Plan. There's a listing of budget amounts next to each of the activities that are listed. So, for example, if I try to use an example, and as say, these start at page 12, but if I used one example, you have engaged and empowered community as part of community priority number 3. There's deliver the community funding program. The budget for that is $560,752. So there appears to be a budget where it's applicable to each of the projects that are assigned. Now, are you talking about capital works projects as opposed to other projects that the town's doing?
No, what I'm talking about, this corporate business plan is supposed to run out to 2028, and there's a lump sum in there. It doesn't show the expected costs for each year, as all the plans have done in the past.
Yep. So I do understand that it doesn't show the total cost for each of the years over the life of the plan. It does indicate which of the years of the life of the plan that particular action or project is to be delivered. And I accept that it has a 25-26 budget. I'm trying to get information to get you the answers for what you're looking for. So, Ms. Tucker, this particular version, and I'm looking at Appendix 11.3.1 from last month's agenda. So it does have listings of project budgets for just 1 year. Is that what you were referring to when you said that there are costings in there? Because they clearly are not all contained, for example, on one page. And Mr. Maxwell was talking about him being referred to page 10. Is there something else you can add to this? And then the other part of the question is, these are clearly not capital works projects, and are they separately available within the corporate business plan? Ms. Tucker?
Yes, thank you for clarifying. That's the exact circumstances. So the projects that are listed in there have the annual budget allocated next to them. Some of those projects don't have any budget allocation because there's none needed. Many of the capital works programs not listed down by actual title, but it may be incorporated into other projects that the town's delivering. So if you're referring directly to CapEx projects, then might have to get you some further information in relation to those.
So then if I can just ask to follow up Mr. Maxwell's other question, it clearly is the case that the substantive part of the corporate business plan, which identifies the actions, the year that they're to be undertaken, and only the budget for 25-26, where Mr. Maxwell points out previous versions of the corporate business plan contained, for example, the total indicative spend for each of those years of the life of the corporate business plan. Is there a particular reason why we haven't followed that practice or that model for this particular corporate business plan? Ms. Tucker?
Thank you for clarifying. There's a couple of points. First off, we're changing over to a council plan. And so there's a lot more information that needs to be included in a council plan than the corporate business plan, and we're in the process of developing that at this present time. The other thing that the corporate business plan had last financial year was a copy of the actual budget, and I think that's what you might be referring to. So that budget's a standalone separate document, and that lists down a lot of those expenditure for those projects going forward. In relation to the life cycle of some of these projects, that hasn't been included because sometimes the budget hasn't been decided in relation to those forward years, and it might give not an accurate picture of the budget for some of those projects. So it's just what we do know for this financial year.
Mr. Maxwell?
This council plan that you're talking about, when is that due to come out?
So the introduction of a council plan is part of Tranche 2 Local Government Act reforms to require all councils to no longer have a strategic community plan, a corporate business plan, a long-term financial plan, as far as I understand it, but to roll them into one compendious type document. I'm not certain, but Ms. Tucker may know if the department has yet issued any guidelines about how to prepare them. I think I've heard of a couple of councils who've decided to have a go at doing them themselves, and they have been approved already by the department. But in terms of ours, I think we'll be undertaking a review of our strategic community plan, like a minor review is due in 2026, but I think we were considering that might be the time for us to look at converting it over to the new process, so we just put that in place going forward. Ms Tucker, anything further you can add to that around timing?
Thank you. That's exactly correct. It's actually a major review that we need to do. So that's the reason why we're undertaking it all at the same time. And so that'll go out for community consultation once we start doing that. But we are awaiting guidelines from the department which haven't been issued as yet.
It's failed to see how that affects the corporate business plan that has already been approved by the council. I have another question.
Sure.
So in response to your question last month, Mayor, that your question to the CFO stated that the previous corporate business plan only included the current year budget and that he had followed the same approach in this plan. He also claimed that the document is not substantially different, despite that it has been reduced from 51 pages to 39 pages. The previous plan included a 4-year financial summary over 2 pages. So it's year 1 is 24-25, year 2 25-26, year 3 26-27, and year 4 27-28. That's the life of the plan. Each year's got financials on it. The CFO has claimed that only the current budget year was removed. If that is the case, can I ask where in the revised corporate business plan that the council approved last month, where is this financial summary for 2026-27 and 2027-28?
Mr CFO?
As Mr Maxwell pointed out, it's not there. So the decision was made to just have the current year budget. Excuse me. Sorry, my apologies. Whether detailed by program or against a particular point in the strategic community plan, the 4-year excerpt last year was taken from the LTFP, which we do need to review to allow for things like, for example, rate projections or whatever else we may or may not know. So you'd rather get accurate information than just putting 4 years worth of an old LTFP, because that's of little value to anybody.
So,
Mr Maxwell?
So if our 4-year plan is now only a 1-year plan, what is the council using for long-term or medium-term planning?
So, Mr Maxwell, there is of course the long-term financial plan itself. The corporate business plan really is intended to be a distillation down from the long-term financial plan, which is a higher order document that can't predict accurately because of the length of time that the Local Government Act says a long-term financial plan should be. I think there's been recognition by the state government that long-term financial plans requiring councils to do them for 10 to 15 years really isn't a great practice because things change so much. That's the reason why state governments and federal governments don't do them. They do forward estimates for up to 3 years. That's a little bit more akin to a corporate business plan, but again, it's not intended to be necessarily an exact blueprint, but the long-term financial plan is our guide for the best information we had available to council from the staff at the time it was presented us for adoption. For example, our current long-term financial plan has in it a considerable spend for Lathlane Zone 1 redevelopment, which is now under rethinking as to how that will be delivered. And it may very well be that it comes to be delivered not by the town of Victoria Park, in which case that changes completely our predictions for where we would want to be and need to be in 10 years' time. So the long-term financial plan is due for a review, and the timing of that is something that I've discussed at length with the CFO about how we can move those pieces into a sequence where we review the long-term financial plan ahead of the budget, so there's enough time to look at things like corporate business plan, and then the budget, of course, is supposed to be 1 year of the corporate business plan. But having to consolidate and change these integrated planning framework documents into one single council plan is going to prove a bit of a challenge, I think, for everybody. I think in the end it might be a document that looks like it's just a piece of all those other documents put together sequentially so that we cover off on everything we need to. But in terms of it, it's been explained to you that a different view was taken about how to present it for this year, noting the challenges and the things that are going to change for us probably within the next 6 months. So I don't know that I can give you any better information than that. But how we plan is we look at the long-term financial plan, we look at our strategic community plan. It still has programs in it, and this corporate business plan lists all of the programs that go with each of our community priorities, and it indicates over which years it will and won't have those programs being delivered. The only difference now is that the costing only sits for the one financial year, which is the current budget year. But the overall cost for delivering these community priorities is reflective of the long-term financial plan needs of the organisation.
So, in all the answers I've been given now, is basically you're telling me the corporate business plan was intentionally stripped out of the long-term information and only 1 year's put in. So why last month when I asked these questions was I told, and why you were told, Mayor, that this plan had only had minor adjustments done to it and was substantially the same as the previous years?
Well, I have to go to the Manager of Governance and Strategy because I think she leads this preparation of this document with other town staff. Ms Tucker?
Thank you. Yes, basically it is a minor review. The projects were completed, have been removed. The ones, a couple of new ones have been added in. The financials have been updated, and one or two other things have been removed. It's basically the same format that we followed the previous years.
I just can't believe you're saying that. But anyway, I'm not getting anywhere with this.
All right. Thanks, Mr Maxwell. There being no other people in the public gallery, I will close public question time at 7:01 p.m. Noting that answers to previous public questions that were taken on notice at the Ordinary Council meeting on the 19th of August are contained within the agenda. Item 6 on the agenda is public statement time, which I now open at 7:01 p.m. Mr Maxwell, I understand you want to make a statement, is that right?
I do, thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor. So I wish to raise a concern about the way information is being shared with the community. Been turned off. Council's information policy sets out two important principles. First, that government information is a public resource which should be published promptly and proactively without the need for formal requests. And second, that transparency is everyone's responsibility, supported by both elected members and staff. The policy also reflects advice from the Information Commissioners and Ombudsman, who encourage the informal release of information wherever possible. Unfortunately, the town's current practices do not reflect this approach. Information that was once readily available is now being withheld or delayed. For example, key financial data has been removed from the corporate business plan, as I just mentioned. Evidence about tree removals at Edward Millen has only been offered through FOI, and financial details previously included in agendas are now withheld. There are also outstanding commitments to the Information Commissioner that have not yet been honoured. I would encourage Council to seek clarity on how many FOI processes are currently in the system. Each of these consumes resources for the town and for the Commissioner, and they appear to run counter to the policy directions that you have set. The community values openness and accountability, and I ask Council to ensure that the principles of transparency set out in your policy are put into practice. If Council's policy is transparency, then the practice must match the promise. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr Maxwell. There being no other members of the public in the gallery, I will now close public statement time at 7:04 p.m. Item 7 on the agenda is confirmation of minutes and receipt of notes from any agenda briefing forum. So the recommendation is that Council 1 confirms the minutes of the Special Council meeting held on 8 July 2025, 2 confirms the minutes of the Ordinary Council meeting held on 19 August 2025, 3 confirms the minutes of the special council meeting held on 1 September 2025. 4 confirms the minutes of the special council meeting held on 2 September 2025. And 5 receives the notes of the agenda briefing forum held on 2 September 2025. Can I seek a mover and seconder, please, for the officer recommendation? That's moved Councillor Anderson, seconded Councillor Cruiser. I'm going to ask, is there any dissent? No, there being no dissent, declare that carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 8 is presentation of minutes from external bodies. The recommendation is that Council 1 receives the minutes of Catalina Regional Council meeting held on 19 June 2025, and 2 receives the minutes of the WA Local Government Association South East Metropolitan Zone meeting held on 18 June 2025. Seeking a mover and seconder, please, for that. Looks like moved Deputy Mayor Ife. Seconded Councillor Anderson. Is there any dissent? No, there being no dissent, declare that carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 9 on the agenda is presentations. 9.1 petitions, there are none. 9.2 presentations, there are none. 9.3 deputations, there are none. Item 10 is method of dealing with agenda business. I have a number of items which are being proposed to be dealt with by exception resolution, with the remaining items to be dealt with separately. I'm just going to read those out, and if there are any in there that elected members want to have pulled out, you need to let me know. So the following items are proposed to be adopted by exception resolution, and the remaining items we dealt with separately. 11.1 is Council Resolution Status Report, August 2025. 2 is August 2025 Policy Review. Thirdly is item 12.1, which is Bentley Technology Park Scheme Amendment Initiation. Fourth is 13.1, which is CTVP 2219 Fletcher Park Grounds Maintenance Contract Variation. 5 is 14.1 Statement of Accounts for July 2025, and 6 is Financial Statements for July 2025. Councillor Hamer, did I understand you to indicate you want one of these removed or more of them?
Yes.
All right, so we'll remove 11.2, the August 2025 policy review from the exception resolution. So the other items, I'm seeking a mover and a seconder, please. So that was moved Councillor Hamer, seconded Councillor Minson. Formally going to ask, is there any dissent? No, there being no dissent, declare that carried unanimously. Item 11 is the Chief Executive Officer reports. Item 11.1 has already been dealt with by way of exception resolution. Item 11.2, August 2025 Policy Review. So this item, the recommendation is that Council 1 revokes Policy 113 Homelessness, the town's role as contained in Attachment 1. 2 amends the following policies as contained in Attachment 2. A, Policy 111 Commemorative Recognition. B, Policy 202 Directional Signs. 3, notes that the following policies as contained in Attachment 3 have been reviewed with no changes proposed. A, Policy 006 Gratuity Payments to Employees. B, Policy 008 Disaster Relief Donations. C, Policy 009 Execution of Documents. D, Policy 010 Information Disclosure. And 4, notes that Policy 115 Public Art, as contained in Attachment 4, requires further review and will be presented to a future policy workshop. Can I seek a mover and seconder, please, for the officer's recommendation? Moved Councillor Hamer, seconded Councillor Anderson. Councillor Hamer, did you wish to speak as the mover of the item?
I'll just get straight to it. There was one of these policies that...
Sorry, just want to make clear, Councillor Hamer, are you speaking to the item now as the mover, or are you wanting to ask questions, make an amendment, do something like that? Because I need to be clear whether what you're about to say is you speaking as the mover or not.
Sure. So I will foreshadow an amendment, but I will speak against it, and if I'm successful, I will share the amendment. No?
Okay. I have to say, Councillor Hamer, I'm not sure why you would be moving the item if you intend to speak against the whole thing and move an amendment. That seems to me to be a little strange, but never mind. All right, so you are now speaking to the item, so you'll say whatever it is you need to say. And we don't usually foreshadow amendments, usually foreshadow an alternate, because amendments can be moved at any time.
Sorry, alternate, yeah. Sorry.
It is an alternate you're foreshadowing if the officer's recommendation is lost. Yeah. Okay, is this an alternate, the words of which you've shared with any elected members?
No.
Right, okay, all right. You can begin when you're ready.
Thanks. I did ask some questions about the public art policy, and those answers were received, and they were quite helpful, so that was good to hear. The only policy I had an issue with was the commemorative recognition policy, mostly being the definition of culture, which we've done a fair bit of work on. I still had the same opinion that the definition of culture that is now included I find to be convoluted. Secondly, this presents a risk of installing a hierarchy in cultures. Having a definition that is a full paragraph to encompass one culture exclusively, with no mention of any other specific cultures. A definition of culture for the purpose of commemorative recognition should just be the first sentence of the policy which is used, which reads, "Cultures include the diverse traditions, histories, and identities of all the people in the town." So if I was successful in voting against this, I would have an alternate that revised the definition of cultures to be just that first sentence.
Okay, Councillor Anderson, as the seconder, do you wish to speak to the item?
No, Mayor, that's fine. Thanks.
All right, thank you. So we've had a speaker against, we've had a speaker, hard for me to determine whether it's for or against. So yeah, let's just go a little off-piste, as they say on the slopes. Is there anyone who wishes to speak now that we've had a speaker against? Someone who'd like to speak for? If no one wishes to speak, I go back to the mover to close the debate.
Yes,
I haven't got there yet, Councillor Hamer. Are you asking a question?
No.
No, I'm trying to ascertain if any other elected member wishes to speak on the item before I go back to you to close the debate. Councillor Minson.
Thank you, Mayor Vennon. Yeah, in support of the officer's recommendation and including the definition as recommended for cultures by the Town of Victoria Park, I think it's it's clearly, I think, written in the definition that we are respecting all cultures equally in that definition, and I think it's appropriate to specifically call out Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders in a separate sentence to say that that also is included in that in the original statement, that all the cultures are treated equally, and that we're proud of the diverse traditions. So yeah, I'm comfortable with the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Deputy Mayor Ife, did you wish to speak? You'd indicate it with your hand.
Sure. Look, I will be supporting the officer's recommendation. I disagree with Councillor Hamer. I don't think that that definition of cultures does imply a hierarchy of cultures within the town. I simply think it defines culture very well and pays tribute to the fact that we are indeed on Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander land. So I'm quite content with this policy, and it has taken extensive work to get it to this stage, so I'd be happy for us to approve it tonight.
Thank you. Anyone else who wants to speak? Councillor Devereux.
Thanks, Mayor Vernon. Just to support what Councillor Ife has said about the extensive work and consideration that's been put to this policy over 9 months or a long period. And so I think that, and I've certainly appreciated that consideration, and I think the fact that it recognises the fact that what's in the town's reconciliation action plan should be respected, and so I think to mention that alongside, as others have said, the respect for all cultures seems logical and valuable to have there, and so I support the idea of the motion as it is from the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Devereux. Anyone else who needs to be heard? Councillor Anderson.
Thanks, Mayor. I would like to speak. I actually just needed a second. I was a little bit thrown because I didn't have any awareness of what Councillor Hamer was sharing with us. I was a little bit surprised because of the work that has gone into developing this policy, the amount of times that it has come back to councillors to discuss, and the investment of time from staff, and the rich conversation that we had about our culture in our town. And so, yeah, I will be supporting the staff's recommendation.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on the item? No? In that case, Councillor Hamer, do you want to close the debate?
That's fine. We can move forward. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Hamer. So I'd ask everyone to now please vote in relation to the officer recommendation. My system is refreshing, so if I could ask the minute taker to record me as voting in favour of the officer recommendation, please. So declare that carried. Those in favour, myself, Mayor Vernon, Councillor Anderson, Deputy Mayor Ive, Councillor Cruiser, Councillor Devereux and Councillor Minson. Those against, Councillor Hamer. Item 11.3 is a late item that is direct to Council. This item is a recommendation that Council adopts the schedule of agenda briefing forums and ordinary Council meetings for 2026, with all meetings being held from 6:30 p.m. in the Town of Victoria Park's Council Chambers at 99 Shepparton Road, Victoria Park. Can I seek a mover and seconder, please, for the agenda recommendation? Deputy Mayor Ive and seconded Councillor Devereux. Thank you. Is there any dissent? Oh. Deputy Mayor Ive, do you want to speak to this item?
Look, I just really enjoyed just sentencing you all to 20 meetings next year. So I really call on everyone to support this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any dissent? No, there being no dissent, declare that carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 12 is the Chief Community Planner reports. 12.1 has already been dealt with by way of exception resolution. Item 13 is the Chief Operations Officer report. There's only one 13.1 that's been dealt with by exception resolution. Item 14 is the Chief Financial Officer reports. 14.1 and 14.2 have been dealt with by way of exception resolution. Item 15 on the agenda is committee reports. There are none. Item 16, applications for leave of absence. No, you can't apply, Deputy Mayor Ive. Are there any applications for leave of absence? No. Item 17, motion of which previous notice has been given. There has been no such previous motions. Item 18, questions from members without notice. Are there any questions? Deputy Mayor Ive.
I'm putting my serious hat back on. I have noticed a fair amount of commentary on local social media pages from people with some confusion about FOGO bins. They say that they have green bins, but they haven't yet received FOGO bins. And I was just wondering if there's an update, please, on any missing properties and how many we might have missed out. Thanks.
Going to turn to our Chief Operations Officer, Ms Labicus.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, so there has been a few little problems with the data, and that's centred around people who have requested green bins and other bins. But in terms of the caddies, I think there was about 50 that didn't make it out there that we're looking to deliver. But other than that, it's mainly around the way that we're surfacing the information, whereby the target households were described in a polygon rather than an individual address. So the address finder was sending people in different directions, and we've since removed that.
Deputy Mayor Ife.
Thank you. Is it too early to see how compliant people have been with the new bin system? I say that because I drove down my street yesterday and was a tad concerned by some unusual bin combinations.
Ms Labicus.
We are starting to get reports through from Cleanaway, and they are reporting contamination and in high levels, and they are reporting that there are incorrect bins that have been put out. So we're switching the campaign that we were doing to promote the introduction of FOGO through to community education, and we'll be able to monitor that on a geographic basis too.
Thank you, nothing more.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from elected members without notice? I might just ask one, since I heard a conversation over dinner about a certain raised speed plateau on Mint Street, the corner of Hubert Street, and how that was going. I know that a number of questions have already been asked recently by elected members on behalf of the community about the profile of that raised plateau, and I wonder if either Ms Labicus or Mr Doy could shed any light on how the town's going with reviewing the installation of that raised plateau, and whether there is any likelihood of any review of its efficacy. Ms Labicus first.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, so we have, since we got the last questions from Councillor Morosa, we have actually done a full conformance review, and we did find that certain elements of that ramp wasn't according to design. And tomorrow we'll get a confirmation date from our contract partner on when they're going to come and remediate that. So following that remediation, we'll then initiate a road safety audit. So whenever we do these kinds of work, a road safety audit follows, and we'll know the efficacy on the back of that.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Any other questions from elected members without notice? Councillor Devereux.
Just while we're on the theme of traffic humps, I just wondered if there's any update on the Rutland Avenue Watts profile humps that were also going in.
Ms Labicus.
We actually have a technical review of Rutland Avenue later this week, where we'll understand a little bit more around the dates and times and things then.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions from elected members? No? All right. Item 19 is new business of an urgent nature introduced by decision of the meeting. There is none. Item 20 is public question time, which I open at 7:23 p.m, and noting there are no members of the public gallery remaining in attendance, close it at 7:23 p.m. Item 21 is public statement time, and again, there being no members of the public in the gallery, I'll open it at 7:23 p.m. and close it at 7:23 p.m. Item 22, meeting closed to the public. We have no such matters for the meeting to be closed to the public, and there being no further business of this council meeting tonight, I will declare it closed at 7:23 p.m, which I think might go down as a little bit of a record. But sometimes you just need to have a little bit of a record, don't you, with council meetings? Thank you everyone for coming along tonight. Thank you those who joined us on live streaming, and we are adjourned. Thank you.
Councillors, staff, members of the public, please be upstanding for Mayor Karen Vernon.